screen. So that's great. So we know it's been a pretty tough year for most, and we had the idea to put together a webinar that would bring a little positivity and showcase some inspiring stories that have emerged out of this time. We may just be able to learn from each other and work together as a region in the new normal. So I've been joined by some great guest speakers, and I'm hoping that by the end of this, you'll be able to use some of the information provided to nurture your businesses as we move forward and leave 2020 behind. So before we get started, just a little about us. So we're a further education college that provides a wide range of academic, vocational and professional qualifications. Our mission is to transform life through learning. So we've got 4 main campuses around Sheffield, and I'm usually based at City Campus. We had a whopping 14,000 students attend our college last year. It's just under half of the capacity of Sheffield United Stadium, to put that into perspective for you, so quite a large number. We work with a wide range of employers within the region and contribute quite significantly to the local economy. We're also really proud to have recently been named as a UK Business Hero by the British Chamber of Commerce. This was helping out our local community during the pandemic. And we've just also found out we've been recognised as a Beacon Commended College, and we'll be releasing a press release very soon. So as we know, it's been an extremely challenging year. According to statistics, the north of England appears to have been hit the hardest. So it's shone a light on the north-south divide and prompted more questions about socio-economic disparities. There could be many factors. One of the things could be in the south, it's more rural, so there's less population density, even working from home as well. So in London and places down south, it's easier for people to do so. Unemployment numbers are up for 16 to 24-year-olds, which is the biggest drop for any age group. So that showcases to us the importance of working with our young people and building up their employability skills to ensure that they're prepared for the tough climate. 80% of SMEs across all sectors have seen a revenue impact from COVID too. But as well as making use of the government support to help businesses ride out the storm, we've seen businesses diversify during this time. 76% of SMEs actually showed how they could adapt and succeed, and they introduced a new service as a result of COVID-19, which is quite an impressive number. So on that note, I'd like to introduce Arnie, the owner of City Taxis, and he's going to talk about their story in relation to the pandemic.
Okay, morning everyone. And thanks to Sarah and Rachel for asking me to talk to you about our journey, excuse the pun, for the last 7 or 8 months, which has been a bit of a roller coaster, as over the next 10 minutes I'll try and convey. So yeah, last 7 or 8 months, wow, it's been tricky, but also it's enabled us to sort of to pivot into other markets. So that there's a lot of negatives and there's some positives in the next, which I'll talk to you about. To start off, I'll give you a bit of background about our company. We're relatively well known locally now, so a lot of you on the call I know, but for those of you that don't, we're a private hire taxi company, one of the largest in the UK. I think we're number 3 now in the league table, although post-COVID, I'm not sure what those numbers look like. We've been going for over 40 years as a business. And we operate with 2,000 cars over a geographical area that spreads mainly over South Yorkshire. So the majority of our business is in Sheffield, but we cover most of the Sheffield City region. So Barnsley, as far as Doncaster, and then we've got a business in Derby, which we acquired a couple of years ago, which we're trying to grow. Our business Revenue is made up of passenger fares, two types: cash customers that would use us to book a taxi to go to a pub or a restaurant or down to the football, and business accounts, which we do business with 3,500 companies right across the region, scaling from one-man bands to government contracts with the NHS and council for school runs and patient transport, which I will talk to get into a little more detail later. The split there pre-COVID was 90% cash work, so Joe Public against 10% account work. And as you can see on the screen there, our pre-lockdown numbers, we would do roughly 125,000 completed jobs a week. So if I was talking to you in January or February time, well, actually in December, I did a presentation at the Crucible outlining what our vision was for a business. The three main things we were trying to achieve this year in 2020 were the launch of our city electric project, which is we have a vision to convert our fleet in the next 5 years to fully electric, in line with the government's ambition, which is now over the next 10 years to sort of eradicate diesel and petrol cars. So we wanted to be at the forefront there and working with the council, and we were hoping that 2020 was going to be quite an exciting year for that. To be honest, that has all been put on hold, as has the clean air zone consultations with the city council. But that will kick back, from what I'm hearing, towards the back end of next year and looking to implement the year after. So that is one of the casualties of sort of our business model and what we were hoping to achieve. Secondly, on a smaller scale, we launched the idea of we wanted to incubate a charity every year. We did that with a local charity called Mums in Need. They moved into the office. The idea there was to provide support to them, wide-ranging support really through our networks, and actually just being part of our fabric and using our offices, our infrastructure, and really nurture a relatively small charity. And the idea is to do that for 12 months and then let them leave, and hopefully in a better place, and we'll bring another one in 12 months time. That has happened. Unfortunately, lots of stuff that we had planned for them, we haven't been able to do because of COVID, but it was, I think that the plan is that we'll probably, with Laura, look to extend the period that they're going to be with us and look to do some of those exciting projects next year when things start to release. And then we also were looking at a delivery arm called City Grab, which people thought I was mad back in December, because our main competition in Sheffield is a huge global entity in the form of Uber. And then we've got the idea that we would like to take on the delivery giants like Deliveroo, Just Eat, Uber Eats, etc. But we felt as though there was an angle for a local option, like City Taxis is a local option for taxi users. We felt as though there was a local option for delivery. So back in January, February time, we spent 6 months last year building the platform, etc. So we launched in February with the idea that we could service local independent restaurants and outlets to our communities, and we can do that pretty much instantly because we've got the delivery network. There's a figure there. We had 25 outlets on, and we did 12 deliveries. So it was a pretty slow start, and then we got hit by lockdown. So just to give you a feeling of the impact that had on our business, I mean, obviously, like everyone, nobody saw that coming. Business was in a good place in January. We'd had a really good, actually, 2 months trading in January and February. Were in front of forecast. And then 23rd of March hit us, and literally on that Monday night, come Tuesday, that first week after Boris made the speech, we dropped by 85%, and it was pretty grim. And as sort of the front man of the organisation, and we've got 100 and odd staff at that point, it was a very dark time that week, and I was heading into the week after with some very tricky and difficult and emotional decisions to make. Fortunately, the Chancellor came out with the sort of support packages. Furlough was just a massive announcement to us, because it would have, as I say, I was heading into a week's worth of some very painful decisions there when you've got very little income coming in and quite a large overhead. It was like with no end date, which was the tricky bit, not knowing how long you're going to have to navigate the situation. I actually had some pretty frank conversation with our senior team. In hindsight, maybe it was a little bit early for that, but because we managed to plow through it, but it felt like I had to set the tone. Anyway, furlough helped. We put 68 staff on furlough. As you can see by that figure there, we 10-15% job count, which was brutal. And that's not just to, if you think about it, that's not just to this business, but this business is responsible for supplying income to 2,000 self-employed drivers. So to give you an idea on numbers there, we would transact probably about roughly £1 million a week. So that was £850,000 worth of revenue coming out of the local economy that feeds all those self-employed drivers. So as you can imagine, quite an emotional time for everyone. I then had to work out how we're going to, what can we do to get through this. And I remember just, sitting with my core team and working out, called it like a COVID response document, which said, I looked at our business and thought, you know what, nobody's moving around here, but what else can we do for our communities? And I've got, an infrastructure here, whether that was a large call center that could handle, inbound calls on behalf of local government. So we came up with a document, and I literally fired it to everyone, from everyone at local council, our account customers, how we could support, to number 10, because we're part of a much bigger network of taxi companies where, in my opinion, we could have supplied to help, supply transport needs as and where they need it, particularly on delivery side. So we did that, and I suppose the next bit is how we took from that position and what we've achieved to date. There's a couple of graphs on the screen there, again, to visualize the impact of where we were in February and where we dropped to in April. And you can see as the lockdowns gradually released, our job counts thankfully came back, which is reassuring to me, in that, I'm sat here now thinking that when things do restore to normal, our business hasn't disappeared. It will bounce back. November's numbers obviously going the wrong way, and it looks like we're going to be roughly back to where we were in May. So that's the left-hand side, and the right-hand side is to talk a little bit about the food delivery side. So as you can say, earlier when we launched in February, hardly did any work, but you couldn't have asked for, strangely, you couldn't have asked for a better time. It feels weird saying that, but to launch a food delivery business, because especially through March and April and May, it was a lifesaver. Well, to a lot of people, because there's nothing else to do, and it was giving them a treat, if you like. But then also to lots of independent outlets and restaurants that we provided them an opportunity to trade. And it's as stark as that. I mean, they've got some stories myself of, our local fish and chip shop. I went down on the Tuesday after Boris announced lockdown, and she was in tears thinking, she's got her overheads and, you know, a relative, and didn't know how she was going to survive. And I said, look, we're launching this thing. We've launched City Grab. Why don't you give it a go? I'll give you a terminal, just see how you get on. And I think Ronnie would be open and say that she's probably earned more money through lockdown than she's ever earned. And it's become part of her business now, something that she would have never thought about. I'll come back to Grab a bit later. Another thing that, well, really supported our business is we were already contracted to the NHS in all our areas. We're a key supplier to Sheffield CCG, Sheffield Teaching Hospitals, but also the bigger transport providers to the NHS, namely Yorkshire Ambulance Service and East Midlands Ambulance Service. So I actually got a phone call to say, could you help us transport COVID positive patients by somebody senior at Yaz? And I was like, well, no, I can't think of how we could do that by keeping our drivers safe. Then I slept on that and then thought, well, actually, we've got 300 Hackney carriages that work on our circuit. They're one of very few vehicles that have an actual barrier in the vehicle, a fixed bulkhead. So again, to cut a long story short, because I know we're short on time, that we created mini ambulances out of the black cabs. And we've done thousands of journeys, literally, in the last few months. We pitched them with a model where we'll take the driver, we'll train them up with infection control and prevention training, and we'll work with a third party to deep clean the vehicles after every journey and after every shift. And we sourced PPE actually through Steve Manley, who's on the call. We went to trusted suppliers, and we were able to supply a very unique and bespoke service. And it not only in Sheffield, then what happened was Yorkshire Ambulance Service started to deploy us all over Yorkshire. So we were going as far as Leeds, York, Hull, carrying out, because nobody else could support the need. And that really helped to support us as a business. And that shift of 90% cash, 10% account work actually went the other way around. We were doing 90% corporate work to 10% cash. And the 10% was pretty much, you know, key workers traveling into work. So we had an ambulance contractor there called UK Event Medical, which I should mention too, who were excellent in helping us provide the specific training to drivers. Also, when we were looking at cash work as lockdown released, we needed to come out with how we could portray that our service was safe and, you know, COVID secure. And the trade nationally started to think about, well, we could fit these fixed bulkheads that you have in Hackney carriages. Could we come up with a temporary fix for private hire to get them out working, to build some confidence with our customer base? And if any of you have used a taxi in the last few months, you notice that our vehicles now, we've fitted them with a plastic screen, like a shield that fits in between the driver and the rear part of the vehicle. Again, went to a contact of mine in Sheffield, a very long established shop fitter called Henry Halls, who do signs and things. And Pete managed to create a bespoke screen which was universal, because obviously we've got lots of different vehicle types. And now we've got 99% of our vehicles are fitted with these screens. So customers have the choice to book that or not book that. But, you know, I think that helped to get the job count flowing again. Just moving back to City Grab, just to give you an idea of those numbers. So from a standing start of nothing, the peak was 5,000 deliveries a week, which was, I don't know, circa about £150,000 worth of revenue a week, which was just amazing. And it felt back then, it became really a bit of a real community project. You know, the local media, local press got behind it. And from that 30 initial outlets, we ended up with 150 outlets on it. across all our territories, and real good news story. You know, 2.5 million by mid-June. I think we're touching nearly 3.5 million now. That's gone back into the local economy and helped people survive through a, you know, obviously an extremely unprecedented, tricky time. One thing as a business leader, it felt as though right from day one, that first week, when I sat with my team, I said, look, this is going to be really tough. My gut feeling is we will survive this because we're fortunate to be have enough money in the bank and support from the banks that we can see it through. But what I want to make sure is that our business comes out of this and we're recognised that we did the right thing and we were there to support our community, and City Grab was part of that, and it enabled us to support the community in lots of different ways. And what you know, one of which was we decided to give back to some local charities, because you know I'm involved indirectly with a few, you know, Western Park Children's Hospital, St Luke's. There are 3 key partners, if you like, and they've had a really tough time this year. And what we decided to do was give it a real good push on social media and donate delivery fees over weeks and the weekends over a particular month. Just go to the next slide. And we, over that month, we gave, I think, just over £57,000 to those charities. But it felt as though we're trying to give City Grab, give it that community feel. And my indirect benefit with that was that, you know, increase the number of app downloads and make sure that this project and product that we created was had some longevity when we came out of it, which I'm pretty sure well, I'm hoping that it has, because when it dropped to when things got back to normal, these numbers sort of got back to 50% of where we were at its height. So I'd like to think that it's become an extension to our core business. And off the back of that, like the college, we've been acknowledged with one of the UK Business Hero Awards out of the Chamber, which is testament to the team, the drivers, everybody, all the outlets that got behind it. So where are we today? The next step is that we're, well, playing the waiting game, really. I'm sat here knowing that financially the next 3 months will probably be our toughest, because we don't see the same level of NHS work coming back. Grab has picked up again this month, obviously due to lockdown, but not at the height of what it was. But we're engaged with Sheffield City Council at the moment around, quite passionate about this. Again, local retailers are really up against it. And we're all sat here now and probably going to buy Christmas on Amazon. And again, the message there is that, you know, however amazing Amazon is, which it is, you know, we use it all the time, but that you know, that money's not staying in our local economy, and significant commissions are going out to a transnational corp again. And we look at City Grab and think, okay, it's been great with food, but actually we could use it as a delivery arm to a lot of local independent retail outlets. So in discussions with the council at the moment around how they may be able to support that through you know, towards the end of this month and through December, to give a lot of these smaller local independent traders the ability to get online and deliver fast. And we you know, initial talks with those is that, yeah, we'd love to do it, but there's there's some setup costs there that the council can maybe help with, and also the delivery costs. We're sort of going and saying, is there any way you could help with the sort of the delivery costs via our drivers? Because I'm conscious that they can't be seen to be support Arnie Singh or City Taxis because it's very political, but actually this is supporting a platform that could enable support to lots of independent traders and to create journeys for the self-employed taxi drivers. So we've got a plan, and we would like to. We've got a marketing budget to throw at it, which I'll be totally honest with you. When you look at what it feels that we need to do to give it a good push, signing off on that in these times is take some commitment. But I am committed to that, and we're going to do a large leaflet campaign across Sheffield to try and get this message out. We're going to link it with a colouring in competition, so kids can colour in, and we'll give some prize away to their nominated charity and schools and things. So again, just trying to get that community feel, and yeah, and I suppose the final point to mention is, you know, when you say how we've pivoted, that because the delivery platform has been a big success for us, we're now taking the technology, which is bespoke and we own it, to via our software suppliers, which are a large company based in Dublin that do our dispatch platform on the taxi side. And we've taken it to, currently 10 other taxi companies in the UK and one in Ireland, that they're basically using the platform now and doing their own city grab, and we're providing them with the assets to do it. And that's really exciting because they're a global company, iCabby, with customers all over the world. So we're having conversations as far as Melbourne and Sydney and in Washington around, because they're all in the same problem. You know, the taxi industry has had the same impact wherever you are, and they're looking at ways to pivot, and this is an obvious one. So yeah, as you can see, I've rattled through that, but it's been a busy 7 or 8 months. Overall, I'm very positive because we've hopefully got across there that we've done okay from a very dark position. Still not out of the woods. Next 3 months, 4 months are key. In my gut feeling, I think we're going to get back to some normality, hopefully by March, April time. Whether our taxi business ever restores to 100%, I'm not forecasting for that. I think things will have changed, but we're forecasting 85, 90% of where we were. But yeah, thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll have some time at the end to field some questions.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Arne. As Rachel said in the chat, I think it gives us all a bit of hope that we can get through this difficult time. I forgot to mention at the beginning as well, if anybody has got any questions, if we've got some time at the end, if you just want to pop them in the chat and we can go through them. If not, we can circulate a question and answers after. So one of the things we've also been looking into is the skills gap and what we can do to bridge this. So we've actually compiled some data from various surveys, and we also wanted to see if we face the same issues in our own region. So we designed a survey too. Some of you might have even taken part in it. So this here, what you can see, over the summer, Pearson conducted a global learner survey. Some of the stats are really interesting. It's worth a look. The consensus from learners was that the world of education and work has forever changed, as you'll all undoubtedly agree. And for us as providers, in a fast-paced changing world, we need to really make sure that we can meet the requirements and deliver the same experience digitally. So most notably, in a tough economic climate, the importance of practical skills seem to be a recurring theme throughout. And interestingly, participants embrace the practical path greatly over academic pathways as a direct way to solve current problems. But we do have a problem, as you know, we have a skills gap. So you might know this from personal experience. When recruiting for skilled vacancies, they're often harder to fill. With employers, some employers relying heavily on looking outside of our own country for talent. This was actually the case for over half of hard to fill positions within hospitality. The problem just seems to be that people aren't learning the correct skills they need to be successful. So what do we need to do to combat this? So the reforming of technical education and the introduction of T-levels is a start. So they're created with employers to ensure that the skills and content being taught are relevant. In our survey, 79% of you actually agreed that by involving employers in the shaping of the qualifications, this could bring on the change we need to close the gaps. So this new way of learning will lead to opportunities to meet with employers, and it will expose the young people to industry for longer periods, meaning that we can build the gap between education and the working world, and they can explore what options are available. So as I just mentioned, employer engagement and time in industry is one of the best ways to enhance young people's skills from an early age. And they'll also get to mix with a variety of people, which is great for rapport building skills that you just can't learn in any other way. So here on screen are a few of the benefits to young people, and this was actually taken from Closing the Gap, a recent paper from the Careers and Enterprise Company. So this paper also found links between young people exposed to employer engagement and increased salaries, and a reduced chance of becoming NEET, so a reduced chance of not being in education, employment or training. Young people from well-connected families often do have an advantage when it comes to careers. Therefore, offering employer engagement activities in an educational setting is vital to counteract this imbalance. So all in all, it's a great leveller, it widens participation, and it provides equal opportunities. So it's not just us that think experience is important. Research papers show that you guys, employers, agree. So as you can see here, 65% of employers believe that work experience is critical, but in the same survey, only 38% had offered some form of work experience. So this tells us even though employers recognise the importance of experience, there's barriers that are stopping them from offering this. So it may even be that they haven't fully explored the pathways available that they could potentially offer. So if you just think about your own companies and the various departments within, there's a great range of pathways that you could offer some form of experience in. So we want to really work with local employers to find out how we can support to close the barriers and even out the statistic. So our own survey results show that as a region, you don't believe that students are equipped with the skills they need when they leave education. A few of the reasons could be the amount of students that have a part-time job is actually quite low, which means they're falling behind and not building those crucial skills. So we actually surveyed our own students at induction this year, and only 16% of them had a part-time job, which is quite a lot lower than in the past. There's a problem with the old traditional 2-week work experience. Although it's a great insight into the working world and a good first start, which is what it needs to be, a starting point only, and not the only option available, because it's often not tailored to the student's career pathway and the length just isn't enough. If you think about it from your own perspective, if you start a new job, how much do you really get out of it after the first 2 weeks? So by offering longer, consistent placements, students get the chance to develop and enhance technical skills. They get to be a part of a team and give something back to the business. So as we've just seen, experience is crucial, but what are we doing about it? So new to this year, we've created and introduced our employability skills package. So it includes a number of programs to suit all levels of learners. The programs are made up of different modules, and they even include interactive videos from local employers. Some of you, I think, might even be on this call. We've got our employer skills academies, and the students benefit from some amazing opportunities alongside the core learning objectives. And as a college, we are committing that 100% of our students take part in some form of employer-related activity. We're currently building capacity for T-levels and encouraging students to take part in an industry placement. So on that note, Chris Flynn from the Department for Education is now going to tell you a little bit more about the technical education reform, T-levels and industry placements.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for that introduction, Sarah. Can I first check that everybody can hear me? Or Sarah, could you just indicate that that's fine?
I can hear you loud and clear.
And I can't see my presentation on screen, but we'll go through it. So I think there was an industry placement slide, and if you can go to the background slide, please. So what I want to be able to do is just talk you through a little bit about the introduction of the T-level, and in particular the industry placement. And as we've just been hearing earlier, we know it's an incredibly difficult time out there, and therefore hosting industry placements is, clearly will be very, very challenging at the moment. But maybe the spring, as Arnie was saying, maybe the summer, we will be moving back to whatever normal actually looks like. And this is really about trying to say this is the way ahead, and sort of about the introduction of the T-level and about where industry placements fit in with that. The background to this is it's about 5 years ago, 2016, we had an independent Sainsbury panel looking right across the piece at the technical education system, and what it found was an overcomplicated system, something like 12,000 qualifications, employers not really be involved in the design of those qualifications, lack of clear progression routes. And what it recommended was sort of streamlining the system and developing T-levels in collaboration with employers. And that's what we've been taking forward. So as you can see from the slide that is about the education and training options post GCSE, broadly speaking, this is what it will look like. For the other sort of 12,000 qualifications that I mentioned, there's a parallel review being undertaken by colleagues in the department, looking at which ones to keep and which ones not to keep. And in doing that, they'll be looking at have they got the quality and do they lead through to skilled employment. So there will be other qualifications, but the streamline route will look basically like what you can see on the screen there, with A levels for subject-based qualifications, which you'll be familiar with. T-levels are going to be 2-year technical programs, 80% classroom based and 20% in a placement. That equates to about 45 days, and I'll come on to that. It's almost the inverse of what you get with an apprenticeship. And then where you will progress from T-levels, which each single T-level is worth 3 A-levels, I should say. And then you progress higher education, skilled employment, or apprenticeship or technical training. So what are T-levels? And that's the slide you should have on screen. Well, they're new 2-year technical education courses for 16 to 19-year-olds. They have that kind of inverse proportion to apprenticeships, and it's 80% in the classroom and 20%, approximately 45 days in the classroom. And what this actually offers is for students who still want that classroom experience, but also want that meaty engagement with an employer, which was what Sarah was just touching on, that while work experience has its place, this is about something much more substantial. So they've learned in the classroom the skills, and then it's developing and honing those skills on the job in a substantive placement. If we go to the next slide, it sort of reiterates there exactly what T-levels are. 2-year qualifications designed with employers, equivalent to 3 A-levels. They develop knowledge, aptitude, and practical skills. The industry placement is at its heart, and it gives you early access to the brightest talent. I do know that at the moment it's going to be incredibly difficult, but we do need to be thinking about the medium and future term, and hopefully it will arrive spring or summer. But these are things that we would like you as employers to be thinking about now. Can you go? Can you tell me what the next slide is, please?
What are industry placements?
Thank you very much. So what are industry placements? So they are time spent by a 16 to 19-year-old student learning and working in an organisation, in a real environment with an employer, making a meaningful contribution to that organisation, a minimum of 45 days, and occupationally specific. Does the next slide say why offer industry placements?
Yep.
So it leads to smarter recruitment, it helps you support your staff, and it helps you support your community. So it is a solution for entry-level jobs. It can lead to cost-effective recruitment. There is no obligation to pay the student because this is considered part of their education and training. It might provide a chance for some of your staff to develop management and mentoring skills by overseeing the work of that student coming into the class, into the workplace. And it can also help improve diversity and create that kind of shared value in the community that we were hearing about earlier. If we come on to the next slide, is it about placement models?
Mm-hmm.
So what we have is a framework of placement models, and this would allow students generally to work up with up to 2 employers. So the minimum is 45 days, but that can be across 2 employers. I should say that in addition, 5 taster days are also allowed as part of the placement. And this might be where a student is trying something out for a couple of days and you can see whether it's a good match. There may be sort of getting up to speed with health and safety issues and so on. We do in certain instances, if a student has SEND, they could complete part of the placement on a college site, provided it's occupationally specific, and we extend the same for young offenders. We do allow part-time work to count towards a placement, but it must be occupationally specific. So it probably won't apply in given the types of jobs that many young people do, such as retail and catering. That clearly isn't construction, and therefore it wouldn't help them there. But there may be instances where it actually does. And we record placement in hours, so a minimum of 315 rather than 45 days, to reflect different working practices and also the different needs of some students, where with agreement with the employer they may start later, for instance if they're dropping siblings off at school or collecting them, or sort of looking after their parents or so on if they have elderly parents. What does the next slide say, please?
Which placement model might work for you?
Okay, thank you. So there are 3 different placement models. You could have a day release over a long period of time. You could have it all in a single block, or you could have it in a sort of a mix of those 2, where perhaps you start in a block and then have day release. This is really to meet the needs of employers, and the providers would sort of work with employers on how best to make this work. Some employers will say, look, I've got 3 weeks of intensive work or whatever it happens to be. It will be really great if they could come along to this, and then we could have them for a day later. For some, it might be the straight 45 days and so on. What this does is it allows flexibility both for the provider, the student, and the employer to get a broad range of experience, meet the needs of employers, and help ensure it's a quality experience for the student. Next slide, please, and if you could just tell me what it says.
Making it happen.
Yeah, so really it's just have a vision. When you're just thinking about this, just start with the vision for how industry placements can support your partnerships with the community, add value to your talent pipeline, and just be thinking that through as employers. Is the next slide about progress?
Yeah.
Yeah, this may be of less interest to you, but what it's really to reassure you that ahead of introducing T-levels, which we'll be doing progressively, started this September and progressively over the next 3 years. We have been piloting it with thousands of students and 1,000 employers. We're providing 60 million capacity building funding to help colleges get up to speed and to create T-level style placements, that is T-level style placements based on existing qualifications ahead of actually introducing the real thing. The National Apprenticeship Service are raising awareness. We are piloting an employer support fund pilot up to £750 for things like meeting equipment costs, specialist equipment, or indeed training up a mentor and things like that. And I believe that Sheffield are included in that pilot as part of Yorkshire and Humberside. We're also looking at maximising placements across the civil service and public sector. That's both in the civil service and through its supplier chain. Some of that work is paused at the moment for fairly obvious reasons, but it's well developed. We had started it and now we've paused it. We do hope to be able to press the start button on that again very soon. There's a range of delivery guidance for providers. And as I mentioned, the first T-levels were introduced in September 2020. Could you tell me what the next slide is, please?
The employer support package.
Yes, we are currently funding the Strategic Development Network to run a host of webinars, rather like this one, and they've reached about 1,000 people so far over the course of the summer, produce materials, and they have a website where we can actually see those materials. Is there something that says web portal on your screen?
Yep.
That's where you should be going. I know this is being recorded and will be sent round, but that employerindustryplacements.co.uk is where employers should be going. If we go on to the next slide, please. Is it about being ready to take on a student?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to find help as employers for finding local students for industry placements, the National Apprenticeship Service should be able to help, and then and there are the contact details there. Obviously, talk to local colleges, schools, and even other businesses about how you might sort of get together. And in your case, if you are interested, please talk to Sheffield College. You may not be thinking that you're in a position to host a placement for all the reasons that were outlined earlier at just this point, but you would always be thinking about your recruitment pipeline, how you can bring young people in. So don't wait until you're absolutely ready. If you're interested in this, do follow up those lines of inquiry. Do please speak to Sheffield College, and they'll be able to sort of guide you through sort of all of the issues and how you can actually make it happen for you. And if you move on to the final slide, I think it just says thank you or something. And that's everything from me. And just a reminder of the employerindustryplacements.co.uk is where you can find a host of information for employers. And we will also be introducing, alongside our delivery guidance for providers, some further guidance for employers fairly shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. That was great. I know we're a little bit short for time, so I'll let May speak about their experience of hosting 2 industry placements.
Real, thanks, Sarah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant. Just apologies in advance. My neighbour's cutting their hedge, so if you hear a loud noise, then hopefully it won't kind of drown me out, but see how we go. So yeah, I'm going to talk a bit about our experience working with the college, you know, with our placement students as part of our WANdisco Data Academy. It's a nice picture of them both there, our real life students. So yeah, so just a bit about WANdisco on the next slide. So we are a Sheffield-based company, founded by, oh, sorry, just lost my notes. Okay, we were founded in 2005 by David Richardson, a lad. We floated on the stock exchange in 2012. David Richards is from Sheffield originally himself. He spent a number of years in California, so we've got a dual headquarter in San Ramon in California. So he spent a good number of years out there, and recently he's moved back to Sheffield, which is great. We're a tech company, and I'm not going to pretend to understand what we do in great depth in terms of the software itself. It's very technical, but we create software which allows companies to migrate massive amounts of data into the cloud at the same time as it's being worked on. So it means that, you know, people don't have to worry about there being any downtime or loss of data while that data is being moved. So it's all very clever and complicated. So yeah, so the whole company, we're about 300 people in total. 60 of those are based in our Sheffield office, which is mainly our development team and our customer success team, who support customers and deployments of our software. Okay, so in terms of numbers, we've got, I think I'm right in by saying we've got about 16 students in the academy this year, and we've got the 2 students who you've seen the picture of previously. Until the pandemic, we had them coming in 1 day a week on a Wednesday. So unfortunately, we've had to kind of put that on hold for the time being, which is a real shame because they were kind of, you know, really becoming part of the team. So in terms of selecting the 2 placement students, we obviously wanted to give more students a chance. However, in terms of the size of the office and the teams that we could put them into, we had to kind of whittle it down to 2. So we went through a selection process, and we wanted to kind of align it with, you know, what you do applying for a job, just to give them that bit of experience in applying and interviews and stuff. So they all submitted a written application. We reviewed those, and then we shortlisted the candidates down to 7. We then invited those successful 7 into the office for an interview, which was probably a bit nerve-wracking, but they all handled themselves really well. Obviously, it's probably the first time they've ever been in an interview environment, so we were very, very mindful of that. But afterwards, we held a session to kind of feed back on, you know, how those interviews went, and give them some tips about, you know, what to do in an interview to help them in the future. So hopefully that was helpful to them. In terms of activities, we've tried to make their time with us as engaging as possible. Obviously, we want them to benefit from their time with us. So at the start of the programme, we had them spend time with various people around the office, get a handle on who people were, what their roles were, and how they fit into the organisation itself. So kind of just letting them settle in like you would do with a new starter, really. And then we started doing kind of demos of our products so they could learn more about what we do and what software coding tools the engineers use. And then we worked on setting them a few little tasks and self-study tasks that they could do off the back of some of the sessions that they attended, so they could put things into, real life situations. Just before we closed for the pandemic, unfortunately, we kind of came together and put them to work on a project to kind of think about a concept that they could design, like a college system that would be useful to students. And it would go through the same process as we would use for, designing our own software, and having it tested and presenting it to the business and stuff like that. So hopefully we can pick up on that again when they return, all being well. So yeah, so we also try and put them in touch with other teams in the company because we are distributed across the world. So it's good for them to get an insight in, what it's like working in different countries and how we communicate between the different sites. So we've set up a few calls with team members in California and Belfast, just so they get to know, how they do things in the different teams and offices. So I think that's been quite interesting as well. Progress, we've seen huge kind of strides in progression from the students. So from being quite shy when they first started coming in, obviously they have to kind of learn, where things are, who to ask for what. It can be quite nerve-wracking for them, but they've become really confident. They'll just shout up if they need anything or if they're kind of struggling. And also they've learned lots of kind of real life software development concepts and techniques. They can set up various programs that they've been shown. And our engineering manager really raves about them. He can't believe how quickly they've picked things up. Some of the concepts that they're learning are really kind of, high level stuff. And they can actually demonstrate that they understand by presenting things back through whiteboard presentations, which is, again, it kind of, hones their presentation skills, which is really useful. And apparently attendance has also been really, really good in the academy. So hoping that all of this kind of comes as a big plus for the students and engages them. So positives for WANdisco. So, it's always really refreshing to have an injection of young, enthusiastic people in the office, brings in new dynamics and gets people in the business collaborating across teams. We've had to work together to plan sessions for them, get people kind of to mentor the students as well. So that's been really good. And it also gives people the opportunity to do something outside of their normal everyday job. It kind of breaks things up for them. They can think about, how to plan a session to help a student. So that gives them something on the side that kind of builds up their experience as well in something other than the job itself, which is great. We also look at this as a really good way to nurture local talent. We know that a lot of students, after finishing their studies at university, want to move to London and Manchester. They all want to head off to the bright lights without probably exploring much locally. But hopefully the more businesses that showcase themselves and, what we've got in this region and build up relationships with college and universities so we can all help to do that together, I think the more inclined local talent is to stay here because, we've got so much to offer in Sheffield. It's also good for brand awareness. So, the more people that know about your company, the better. They'll spread the word to their friends and families. And, I think it's really good to know what companies and jobs there are in Sheffield by word of mouth as well, from knowing people that have worked or dealt with your company. That's always a big help. And it's also given us a really brilliant partnership with the college. We're in touch a lot. We support each other. Most recently, I'll talk a bit about the laptop project, which has been a massive a massive thing that we've been working on together. And it's also a really nice feeling for everyone involved to put valuable input into the learner's journey, because we know what skills they need in our industry, and if we can help them, identify where they want to kind of go and what they want to learn more on and what they actually need in the industry, I think that's going to be a real big benefit for everyone. So in terms of benefit for the students, so obviously we're making some assumptions, they might have different views, but we think they're going to really benefit from their time within a company. They're going to have another strand of their identity, they're going to build up relationships and a new circle of contacts by the interaction with the people that they wouldn't normally, have anything to do with as part of the college course. You don't get that kind of insight into other people's working lives necessarily. And then you also get the benefit of advice and guidance from experts in the field. If you've got questions on how something works, you can just go back to your employer and they'd gladly have a session on whatever it is you want to know more about, which is brilliant. And they're also getting a first-hand experience of what it's like to go into work and work in an office. They've probably all got an idea of what it's like, but until you actually experience that yourself, and obviously it's going to be different in different settings, I think it breaks down a lot of the kind of misconceptions and, things that they might be worrying about, they might not, need to worry about once they've learned how it really is. And also know that it's not all work. We do have a lot of fun. There's a lot of social elements to work that they've probably become more aware of, which is nice. We also think it's really valuable for them, to be able to put what they're learning in a college context into real life situations, because it gives them, they understand why they're learning, all the steps to become, proficient in whatever course they're doing, and they can see how that works in real life, and what the end product is of what they're learning. So hopefully that's a really massive benefit of spending time with professional software developers, because I guess there's a lot of kind of difficult concepts to get your head around, but once they know how it works, I think it all kind of starts slotting into place. And we also definitely see that this would help students with future employability. They'll come away with a lot more maturity and benefit from experience of having spent time in a workplace setting. And also it will broaden their horizons. They might have an idea of what jobs are out there, but spending time in a business, they'll get to know what different functions and even roles within the same teams there are, and maybe kind of give them more avenues to explore than they might have originally thought. So challenges. So obviously there's always going to be a challenge at some point, but the biggest challenge we've had so far is the COVID-19 pandemic, with offices closing and employees going to remote. Unfortunately, we've not been able to spend time with the students in person. So one of the ways around this we thought was, we really want them to carry on learning things outside of their normal study. So we gifted them some Udemy courses so they could kind of, do some remote learning as and when they can stop and start these things and hopefully learn some things from that course. And it's also relevant. So they were learning about the cloud and, various things related to what we do at WANdisco. So now that things have settled down a bit, we've resumed some remote sessions. So we're starting to think about what else we can do to contribute while we're unable to, see them face to face. So hopefully we'll come up with some more ideas and get those booked in, because I think people are starting to really enjoy doing that as well, from our perspective, and seeing the benefit of the students learning more and more. So one big and important project we've got going on at the moment is the Laptops for Kids project, where the college students are actually kind of working on the erasure of data from laptops that we're getting donated from individuals and businesses. So what we're doing is trying to repurpose these laptops for children and students who don't have access to a device at home. So there's a task force in place, the college are on that task force, and we just feel, it's going to give people some really good opportunities to learn how to refurb a computer, you know, all about the different steps of installing software, the pat testing, all of those things. And it also gives them a good sense of helping with the effort as well, which is brilliant. And then the other challenge we do, you know, we have faced, obviously we're all trying to run a business and do our day jobs. So it has been, you know, there's been times when we've tried to find ways about balancing business need with having people available to work with the placement students, especially when there's been really tight deadlines at work and really busy periods. So, but we found by forming a dedicated and a larger outreach team within the business and trying to plan ahead of weeks when people might have, you know, tight deadlines to meet, we think we've kind of got a way around this, and we've worked out ways to keep them engaged, even if somebody won't have, you know, the time to spend that session with a student on the day that it was booked. At least we've got a backup plan, and we can keep the students engaged and busy, and spread the load between all of the different staff. And that's it. So hopefully that was interesting.
It was, thank you, May, for that. I'm really aware for everyone that's on, we've run over a little bit, so I'm just going to really fly through my last slides and then just see if we've got any time for any quick questions. So here you can just see this is a student's point of view of how beneficial placements are. So one of our animal care students shared her feedback with the team. It was really inspiring. Because of her enthusiasm, she was actually asked if she wanted to continue volunteering after her placement ended, and then this actually then turned into a part-time job for her. So as like Arnie has shown before, how important it is working together as locally, and how agile we need to be as businesses, we feel the same in education. So from May's feedback and the feedback from our students' story, we can see how students can be a part of the employer's journey and ease that recruitment process. So just quickly, some support available. So when it comes to employer engagement and offering young people industry experience, employers mentioned in our survey that they would welcome support from the government and education providers. So we're actually working on a couple of funding projects at the moment. So I know I've gone through a lot already, so this is just a brief overview. If anybody wants any more information, just get in touch after. So the Employer Support Fund. So responding to the impact of coronavirus, the ESF pilot was introduced. It covers the cost of hosting a Sheffield College student on an industry placement where cost is a barrier. So we're the first provider in our region to take part in the scheme, and you can receive up to £750 per student. So next of all, we're involved in the Kickstart programme. This is for 16 to 24-year-olds who are at risk of long-term unemployment. So the scheme has just started this month, and the last placements will begin in December next year. So you will receive up to £1,500 to help with setup costs, and the wages and NI contributions will be covered for 25 hours per week for 6 months. So that's everything sort of wrapped up now. If anyone has got any questions, and we might have time for a couple before May and Arnie need to shoot off, but if there's anything relating to the college or the funding, I can catch up with anyone there. So I'll just have a quick look in the chat. Don't think we've got any questions there, so I just want to say like a massive thank you to the guest speakers today for taking your time out of your day. You've all been brilliant and helped me with this, and thank you for everyone who's attended. I really hope you found it useful. Please do get in touch with any questions that you might have after, but thank you everyone.
Thank
you ever so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, thanks May and Arnie and Chris.
No worries.
Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, thanks, Kim.
that were really good, love. It was brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, because it was really informative. That.
Oh God, I'm glad you thought so.
I'll see you in a bit, love.
See you later.